And hi, this is Paul. Welcome to the first cohort of the Leadership Delta program, Build Your AI Chief of Staff. I'm thrilled to have you. This is a pilot. There'll be about 10 people there, 3 or 4 of whom will be apprentices, coaches, so that if you need one-to-one help, you get stuck with something, there's someone there who can take you aside and give you the one-to-one time to help you through it. Hopefully we won't run into that, but technology does what it does. This is a flipped classroom course. That's a bit of jargon from the HR L&D world. In regular classrooms, the ones that you attended when you were young, the teacher presented concepts and you did the application at home. This is the other way around. In a flipped classroom model, the concepts are learned privately at your own pace in a manner that you like to learn them. And the applied hands-on stuff, which is what we're going to do, happens in the live sessions. So I'm very excited about this. I honestly believe that this is the sort of thing that if well used and with not a great deal of effort, that is by the end of this course, this is the sort of thing that can save 5 or 10 hours a week with a day or two of input. So I'm very excited about that. Moreover, research shows that leaders who can build and do build visibly with AI enjoy substantially higher trust in AI from their teams and greater ROI. I think it's by a factor of 2. So there's something here for people who want to make their working lives better and more fun, get rid of some of the morning drudgery. There's also some stuff here for senior leaders. And are you leading in such a way that builds trust and models what you want from your staff? So let's have a little look here. These are the 3 builds that we're going to do during the course of Chief of Staff. Triages your inbox, tells you where you need to follow up, briefs you on what your day looks like. If there are calendar appointments, what it will do is prepare a short briefing for them. Some people you may know very well, but oftentimes if you're meeting someone for the first time, some background would be useful. Certainly that's important if it's a high stakes sales or financing meeting. A CKO, you have on your hard drives, if you've been at work any length of time at all, thousands of files in PowerPoints and Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and chats, hiding all over the place. That is a gold mine. But Windows and Mac are terrible for searching, synthesizing, and aggregating what you know. Moreover, if you're like me, knowledge is pouring in. You're deluded both with ideas for things you can do and deluged, not deluded. You're deluged with things that you might do, and additionally, the stuff you want to learn. So having a second brain, which sounds bizarre, and I always say to people, why would I want a second one? I've got enough trouble with the one I have. But having a second brain is you'll have to experience it, but it's so incredibly powerful. And then we're going to build a chief learning officer so that you can stay up to date. The failure mode for many people is they open the news feeds in the morning, Substack, LinkedIn, X, maybe it's newspapers, maybe it's not. You can easily spend an hour parsing interesting content or doom scrolling. That can be fun to do, but that's not really a productive use of your time. You can train a chief learning officer to conduct a morning briefing for you. Basically, it runs at 4 a.m. before you get up, scans the news that you tell. It might be The Economist, might be the Times of London, might be Substack, might be LinkedIn, might be podcasts, might be YouTube videos. You scan the world for high signal stuff that you would be interested in that will enrich your working day, and you have a fair briefing for you, and you can always double click it on one of those if you want to get more information. That stops the doom scrolling. It stops you having to wait through LinkedIn slop. It stops a lot of the failure modes, and it also prioritizes some time for you to learn in the morning. So that's the final of the 3 builds that we're going to do. The course is structured into 2 hours, a little extra time on the first thing because it's the first time we'll have met, and there may be glitches that we need to work through. We're going to build in that, and then there will be 2 or 3 webinars that you can watch in between. Well, not you can watch, you should watch in between. And then we'll build your CKO in the second session a week later, and then there'll be 2 or 3 more webinars that you can watch that have concepts, and then we'll build your Chief Learning Officer at the end. So that's the running order of the course. We are going to be building, so by the end of the first session, in the first 2 hours, you will have a dashboard. You will have a level of automation in the drudgery end of your life. That's a real promise. If you get stuck, this is a pilot course, and a lot of the onboarding materials are pilot. You never know. What do we used to say? No battle plan survives contact with the enemy. I think that was the German Field Marshal Waltz. Said no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. No course survives contact with students. That's my email. Reach out as a matter of urgency if during any of this onboarding stuff I'm about to ask you to do proves tricky and troublesome, or indeed during the course of the course. But please, it's very important that you arrive with this stuff done. I'm here to help you do that. Here's what you have to do. You have to set up your workspace, your AI workbench, and your personal context. I'm going to tell you what those are one by one by one. Here, I created an app for it, which this video is part of. Let me tell you what to do and why to do it. So this is the first thing, is Obsidian. Talking about how wonderful Obsidian is guaranteed to annoy people. There's a cult around it right now. It's not an AI tool, but it's a tool that synergizes functions with AI so well that it's got millions and millions of users. And I can't really, it's one of these things, it's hard to describe how useful it is. And you kind of have to see it for yourself. So anyway, go over to obsidian.md, download it for Windows. I'm sure there's a Mac button somewhere there. I've been a Windows user, so I apologize to Mac users, but it is available on Mac. Also, download the file. When you get asked to create a vault, you're going to create a new one, and it's going to ask you where you want to put it. This is quite important. I won't go into the technical details, but you want to put it not in your OneDrive or your Google Drive, because those are cloud-based. The thing that people love about Obsidian, doesn't matter much to me, but a lot of people love it, is that everything in it lives on your hard drive. It's as private as your hard drive is. If you stick it in the cloud, it's as private as the cloud is. So this is, you have infinite access to your data. And moreover, if you were to go in 2027 or 2030 or whatever to another platform, everything that you have in Obsidian is on your hard drive. You don't need to go through, there's no vendor moat for all your data. It lives on your hard drive. Anyway, where you want to put it, you want to put it in C:, and you want to call it something like Joe Bloggs Obsidian Vault. I called it Paul Master Vault, and then I had to rebuild it. I have a vault called the LD Leadership Delta Vault. So call it what you like. Call it Fred if you wish. But that's what you have to do. Again, very easy, but make sure that you stick it on your hard drive. This is what mine looks like. The first thing people say there, I think it says at the bottom, 6,000 files in here. People go, how did you put all that in there? The big failure mode with knowledge management systems, the early ones, was as follows. In order for the thing to be, I'm talking about the 90s. In order for things to be smart, you have to put stuff in there. We, as management consultants in the 1990s, had no desire, once a project was done, to upload the plans and the deliverables and the proposal and add all that stuff physically that makes a knowledge management system useful. So here's the dirty secret of Obsidian. You never touch these folders and files. Like, they're human readable, but that's a convenience because humans never read it. I never go in and click through this stuff on the left to try and find something that I need to work on. Why? Because it's wired up to my Claude, and Claude goes and hunts it down. It's actually wired up to all my bots, which is another advantage of Obsidian, is if you're using multiple agents, you may not be, but if you ever were, I have Hermes and Codex and Kimi and Claude who do various things at times, this is the context that they all share. This is Paul's second brain. And I've got books in here and projects in here and research in here and ideas in here. And you personalize this so that it's a mirror of your purpose, principles, and projects in life. And you see these things all over the internet, these kind of second brain diagrams. You can zoom in on that, but those are the connections between the different files. This is something Windows never did. These are all linked semantically to one another, which means that if you were to say, show me a summary of everything I've written on leadership, Claude would scurry its way through all these linked files and generate something in 5 seconds that's a summary. So that's what mine looks like. Again, I don't put anything in there, right? It is all generated by Claude from my ideas. And yours will look like this, which is kind of gross, right? And when I first opened Obsidian, I thought, this is the most boring thing. Why do I need another list of folders and subfolders and everything like that? I'm a convert. So yours will look even more sparse than this. What we want you to do is set up a leadership team hub. These are some of the folders that you can have in it. You can customize this yourself. There's a folder here called the Leadership Delta Chief of Staff course. And what you do is you begin to create folders using this little thing that looks like a folder in the top left that your AI is going to populate. You don't need to arrive at the course with a ton of folders in there. Some of the folders I have, you may see projects, life, design, health, finances, clients, etc., 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 research. Whatever you matter in life will have some kind of folder, which is a way, again, the machine doesn't care about your folder structure. Really, it can do just as efficient job if there was no structure in there. The structure is to make your vault additionally human readable, even though I said humans never read it. So you're done when Obsidian Desktop is installed. We have a vault named the Leadership Delta Chief of Staff. Call it what you want, by the way. Call it Fred, as I said. And you can see within the vault something called Start Here. You've added a folder or added a note. We'll go into more like how to make it super useful, how to make it look pretty also, because it's ugly as sin when it's installed right out of the box. The next step is we're going to download either claude-cowork or Codex. In terms of utility, Cowork is slightly more user-friendly. There are things to like about Codex. So basically, we're going to download Claude. Cowork is only available on the $20 a month plan to start with. You'll need the $20 a month plan. Now, if you use the $20 a month plan and set it to Fable Ultra High, it will last about 20 minutes. So what you want to do is make sure that your Claude, once installed, is set to Sonnet Medium. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. You download it, and this is a little bit about what it looks like. So we'll go through this more in the course because it can be bewildering. This is mine, by the way, so this has been busy. But what you'll see here is a home and a code tab. The code tab is, surprise, surprise, for coding. Home covers two things: chat, which you may have been doing since 2023, and Cowork. What's the difference between chat and Cowork? Chat doesn't do anything. Chat just recommends things. Cowork, you can give it permission to drive PowerPoint, to drive Excel, to drive your CRM system, to drive your Obsidian, which we're going to do. Cowork actually does stuff. Now, the world is a knowledge worker. Doesn't need more advice. I have a friend who's in marketing who will give me advice for as long as I'm willing to listen. For 2 hours, I don't need that. I need execution. I don't need 2 hours of advice. Can I get all of this done? I run a small business, so I need execution in my life and not advice. Cowork does that. There are some things on the left. We'll go into them later. Projects is a very important tab. I have a project for everything that I'm working on in Cowork. It offers something which again, we'll go into later, called persistent memory. Dispatch lets you do it on your phone. Schedule does what it sounds like, so you can have it run and do things when you're not watching, when you're having a snooze. It can perform some work on a schedule for you. I'll tell you these sorts of things. In the bottom left, something that we won't go into in the course is Claude Design. It's the thing that nearly put Figma out of business 6 weeks ago because Figma fell 14%. It's as good as any designer I've ever worked with. I don't know whether that's close to the pinnacle of what's possible with design. You'll see my website. Perhaps you've seen it already. That was done with Claude Design. I think it looks beautiful, sort of thing that Martin might have spent $10,000 or $15,000 for. I spent $200. These buttons, blue buttons in the middle, you'll see it's pointing towards, the one on the right is pointing towards Sonnet 5. That's kind of where you want to keep it. You can use cheaper models. Even the cheapest AI model is what Claude calls Haiku, or the ChatGPT basic plan. They're so incredibly smart. But to have it do useful work, Sonnet 5, there are levels and levels above that, but they start to get expensive. I have it set on manual, which means, and this is a setting that you want to be aware of. There are several settings, but the most important one is, can it act without your approval? And when you ask it to do something, and there's a series of steps, it'll continually ask you permission. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And it won't do anything without your say-so. So that's great from a security point of view. It's a pain in the backside for an agent autonomy. Makes sense? If you have to keep, like a mother hen sitting over it, waiting for ask you permission to do things, it limits its usefulness. However, at the beginning, while you're getting comfortable with it, it's getting to know you, you want to set it to permissions. And then you want to see there's a little folder button there. This is the most important button of this whole conversation. What you're going to do is you're going to click on that and you're going to connect it to your Obsidian vault. Does that make any sense? Click on the folder button, find where you put it. We were putting it in C: on Windows. Point it there, and then it will have access to what's in your vault, which at the moment is nothing, but we're going to fix that. So once your Claude or your Codex is connected to Obsidian, you first want to find out if it's visible. So just ask Claude in the chat interface, can you tell me which folders I have? You may have none. Then ask it to create a file. Can you create a file called test.md in the Obsidian vault? Just see if it will do that. It should do it fairly trivially. You could also ask it some questions. Well, what I expect a chief of staff agent to do for me. And then you can ask another question. How do I connect my calendar so I can see my... There's various things that you could just... This is by the way, in the domain of fiddling out. We're going to do some sort of, quote, real things in the thing. But if you want to fiddle around, there's some things you can try. And here's what Codex looked like. It's kind of similar. And it's changing so fast. ChatGPT work, you'll see on the top left, was released like 3 days ago. So, and they're constantly refiguring these things. However, again, you'll see choose project is how you assign it a folder for work for. You'll also see the approve for me there, and that's the setting where you tell it how much autonomy it has. There's a plus button there, which means you can connect it to thousands and thousands of different tools. So that's that. And then there's the model selection. I have it set on 5.5 medium. The best model right now is called Soul. Soul High. Again, even on my plan, which on the max plan, $200 a month. Soul High will burn through that at a rate that for me is unsustainable. So you set it for something like 5.6 medium, set it for something called Terra if you're using Codex. There are subtle differences between them, but effectively these two interfaces are virtually the same. So when Codex Desktop or Claude is pointed at your leadership Delta board, you're done with this. If you can read one of your notes back to you, created a test note, maybe it's connected to your calendar, we'll do all of that. So let me explain the errors of AI, because it made a big deal, I think it was November 2022, that ChatGPT 3.5 burst in the scene. There was oohs and ahs. From my point of view today, it was a toy. It was a parlor trick. It was fun. It couldn't really do any useful work. So, and what became clear then, unsurprisingly, is that the better your prompts, the better your questions, the more useful it became. And so today, people still talk ad nauseum about prompting courses, having a database of prompts, and these are the prompts you need to do, as if having a good prompt is some kind of magic trick. It's not. But moreover, the prompting stuff is really 2023, 2024. Like if you read a post on LinkedIn and someone is talking about prompts, or prompt engineering, they're way out of date. What we found in 2025 was a kind of a new era, is AI used to have the memory of a goldfish in 2023, 2024. If you were sitting working, you went and had a cup of coffee, you came back down, might have forgotten what you were working on, or even worse, you were working on something in the morning, and now you're working on this different thing in the afternoon, and it keeps referring back to the thing that you were working on in the morning. Not useful. Memory was a real failure point. And the other thing is that they had very limited context. So you can put in your LLMs, a few paragraphs about you. We're going to do much better than that. Why is context important? Context is king. They say that in literature studies. Context is king. Or in the postmodern world, they would say there is no text, there is only context. There you go. There's a little philosophy for you. Context is how it gives you advice that's pertinent to you. So we're still in the advice stage over there on the left. Context is how, if you say, I want a communication plan, it will give you an abstract way to create a communication plan. Or I want to know how to run a workshop for a client, but it'll give you a design for a workshop, say, for example. But what you really want is, what's the communication plan for this client, for this project, for this audience, with these stakeholders, with the following constraints, using the following media. The more it understands about the background, the context, the more useful to you it is, because it's working on your stuff, not abstract stuff. Again, we don't need abstract advice. We need it working on our stuff. So context engineering, you may have heard that term, was the real thing in 2025. Again, if someone's talking about prompt engineering in 2026, they're way out of date. Context engineering is next, because we've got two more evolutions as harness engineering. And just to give you a little bit of AI history, it was useful in November 2022, but AI became, the revolution in AI was February 2026. So a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm really, really behind. Not really. I mean, there is a lot perhaps to learn, but the real revolution was February 2026. What was it? It was one thing called OpenClaw, which we're not going to mess with in this class, but there was one thing called claude-cowork, where for the first time you had an agentic system at your fingertips. So you could, in 2025, have built agentic AI to do work on your business or in your personal life, but you would have had to have been a coder. You'd have had some expertise in how APIs and MCPs and all this stuff strings together. Not anymore. So in 2025, late 2025 and 2026, we began to talk about the harness. What's the harness? On an animal, a harness is what turns the force into work. And it's the same with artificial intelligence. So the harness is, in the simplest description, going to look something like this. So the harness has an AI model, the brain that we all hear about. You might be using Soul, or you might be using Terra, or you might be using Claude Sonnet, or you might be using Opus, or you might be using Fable. Whatever you're using, that's the brain behind it all. There's the context window is it's working memory. I don't know if you study much neuroscience, but human beings have a working memory. That's the stuff that we can access really quickly for the task that we're working on now. That LLMs have that too. Now theirs happens to be, thousands and thousands of pages of text long, but managing that context, and that's what it's operating on right now. We'll talk more about how to manage that later on. And then there's the harness, which is the bit that's connected to the brain that lets it do work. So it might be a database, it might be your files, it might be tools, it might be your Word, it might be your Gmail, it might be your calendar, it might be Excel spreadsheets, it might be your CRM system, it might be your PowerPoint, like whatever it is the tools are that you're using in your day-to-day working life, it will be connected to those so that it can do stuff for you. For example, I mean, this presentation is kind of rough and homespun, but I told Claude what it wanted. It spun it up in 5 minutes for me. There are tools that are even more impressive, like Gamma, for example, can spin up a PowerPoint presentation more beautiful than I could ever do myself. It will do it in 5 minutes if you tell it what you want. You can paste a rough outline in, and it will do what you want. So that's the hardest part. It's tools, memory, context, and that allows it to be powerful. Context because it's working on your stuff and not abstract stuff. Tools because it's the tools that allow you to do work. So that's the agent harness. And these are the sorts of things we'll do. I hope that's, and so, I hope that's useful. There is one more really important thing to do here. So over on my website, which by the way was built with CoWork for $200. I think probably it would have cost me $25,000 to build a website like the one I have back in the day. But if you look over on my website, paulgimmersadvisory.com, you'll see a button called AI Tools there. Click on that, and then you'll have to scroll down because there are a bunch of tools that I'm now offering for free. So you can check them out. But there's one I want you to use, which is the top left, the Personal Context Passport. I've said before, why does context matter so much? Because you want it to do work for you, not abstract work. And the more it understands about you, the better. So this tool will walk you through a step-by-step show the sort of things an agent should know. What we're going to do with the output from that is stick it in our Obsidian vault. So when we use our Claude Code or our Claude-cowork, it has all of this knowledge about our business and our clients and what we're trying to achieve and our purpose and our principles and our profits and our projects. All of that will live in a dynamic thing. The other thing is if you were to ever change models or change tools in the old days when you created context within ChatGPT, old days, 2025, that is, wherever I go, Jurassic era of 2025, that context that you gave it was stuck in the LLM. So if you changed and you said, oh, well, I don't really like Claude anymore, I'm going to go to Gemini or something like that, you had to teach Gemini what you had taught Claude about yourself. Well, we don't want that, right? So you want portable context. So wherever you go, different models, different tools, different thing, there's a way that all of your different agents and tools have accessing stuff so they make their work relevant and powerful to you. I hope that's a reasonably good explanation. Anyway, personal context here. It'll take about maybe 10 or 15 minutes to get through it. I might take less, 10 minutes. The output is some files. We'll do this in the course if you haven't been able to do it, but if you can, say, click on download the file and stick it in your Obsidian, you get super bonus points extra credit. But if you haven't been able to do that, don't worry much. This is what's going to make the system very powerful for you, is that personal context passport. And that's a little bit what it looks like once you get in there. It will ask you, you can give it a fake name or anything. I don't store any of this data. What should we know about you professionally? There's a few screens like this that will get you through the personal context passport. So you're done when it's saved in your Obsidian vault. If you can't figure out how to do that, it's not that hard. But if you download the file and shove it in the folders that are on your hard drive where you store your Obsidian, that will be the super bonus point. And then you can ask it some questions. And you can ask it to review your business strategy. So that's the end of this rather overlong onboarding video. You're ready when Obsidian can open your vault where your context or files are saved, Claude or Codex can respond, and you have, I would like you to bring a project meeting or priority to the first session so that we can begin to work on those together. Thank you. I look forward to seeing everybody.